The wooden platform of the train station felt cold and unforgiving. Beneath the late afternoon sky, coal smoke drifted through the air in thick gray waves, stinging the eyes and settling into clothes the way disappointment settles into the bones. Eleanor Brooks stood beside a weather-beaten post, gripping her faded travel bag with both hands, as if it were the only thing anchoring her to the ground. She had learned long ago that when everything else slipped away, holding on tightly was sometimes all a person could do. People moved around her in hurried blurs. Boots struck the boards with urgency. Voices overlapped in laughter, reunions, arguments, and promises. Some travelers arrived to open arms while others left with tears and brave smiles. Eleanor did neither. She stood perfectly still, almost invisible, as if motion itself might cause her to break apart. Through the thinning smoke she saw him. Charles Whitfield, the man she had crossed half a country for. He stepped into a horse-drawn carriage without looking back. Beside him sat a woman wrapped in fine fabric and certainty. The woman laughed easily, her joy unguarded, her posture relaxed in a way that came from always knowing she belonged wherever she stood. Charles leaned toward her, listening closely. Already settled into a future Eleanor had imagined for herself. During long sleepless nights on the train, the driver snapped the reins. The carriage lurched forward. Wooden wheels rolled across dry earth and carried away the last fragile version of Eleanor's hope. She did not cry. Crying required belief that something could still be salvaged, and right now belief felt far more painful than numbness. Just hours earlier, Charles had stood before her with polite discomfort etched across his face. He had not been cruel. Cruelty would have been easier to survive. There has been a mistake, he had said. I can only marry one woman. That was all. As the carriage disappeared down the road, the station seemed to exhale and empty. The sun lowered. Shadows stretched. The station master glanced at her more than once, suspicion growing in his eyes. Eleanor knew the look well. It was the look reserved for people who had nowhere left to go. She checked her pocket. $3. 26 years old, alone, and apparently not even chosen by a man desperate enough to advertise for a wife. The smoke thickened again, and for a moment, Eleanor wondered if she might simply fade into it. The word reached her softly, as if afraid she might disappear if spoken too loudly. Eleanor lifted her head. A man stood several steps away, holding his hat with both hands. He was tall and lean, his posture careful rather than imposing. His face bore the marks of sun and labor, lines carved by years of honest work rather than age. His clothes were worn but clean, the clothes of a man who took pride in what little he owned. His eyes held something rare. Hesitation mixed with kindness. I am sorry, he said. I saw what happened earlier. That was not right. The simple acknowledgement struck her harder than the rejection had. Eleanor had learned that being seen could be more dangerous than being ignored. My name is Daniel Mercer, he continued. I have a small ranch north of town. 2 children. Their mother passed away 3 winters ago. I have been trying to raise them on my own, but some things require more than one pair of hands. He paused, turning the brim of his hat slowly as if choosing each word with care. I came into town today to place an advertisement. I never quite managed it. Then I saw you standing here after everyone else had gone. There is a spare room at my place. No obligations. If you need time to think, you would be welcome to stay. If you choose to leave later, I will see you safely wherever you wish to go. Eleanor's throat tightened. Why me, she asked. Daniel did not hesitate. Because you stayed standing. Because you did not beg or rage or collapse when that man dismissed you. And because my daughter says you have a kind face. Before Eleanor could respond, 2 small figures peeked from behind the station wall. A boy and a girl. Identical expressions of curiosity and shyness. When they realized they had been noticed, they ducked back out of sight. You brought them with you, Eleanor asked quietly. I rarely leave them behind, Daniel said. They have already lost one parent. Eleanor looked down at her bag. At the empty platform. At the long road behind, her that led back to rented rooms and endless, sewing and quiet loneliness. She thought of the children hiding behind the wall. Of a man who apologized for another man's cruelty. I would like to meet your children, she said. Relief crossed Daniel's face like sunlight breaking through cloud. The wagon creaked as it moved away from town, the sound oddly comforting in its steadiness. The farther they traveled, the more the land opened up around them. Fields stretched wide and unbroken. The sky felt impossibly large, as though there were finally enough space for Eleanor to breathe. The children sat in the back, whispering at first, then asking questions with growing confidence. Did she know how to braid hair properly? Could she tell stories? Was she afraid of the dark? Eleanor answered honestly. She had grown up in an orphanage. She had learned how to survive quietly. She had never truly belonged anywhere. Daniel listened without interruption. His silence did not feel heavy. It felt like room. For the first time since stepping off the train, Eleanor did not feel trapped by the future. She felt uncertain, yes, but uncertainty was lighter than despair. Winter arrived quietly, the way truth often does, without announcement, without mercy. Snow crept over the plains in slow, patient sheets, covering the land in white silence. The Mercer Ranch looked smaller beneath the weight of it. The cabin's roof bowed slightly, smoke curling from the chimney, like a fragile promise that warmth still existed inside. Eleanor learned the rhythms of the house not by instruction, but by observation. She woke before dawn not because she was asked to, but because her body remembered years of earning her place through usefulness. She learned where Daniel kept the extra blankets, how the children liked their bread sliced thick, how the kettle sang differently when it was close to boiling. She learned the language of the ranch, quiet signals, shared glances, work done without praise. Daniel never treated her as hired help. That distinction mattered more than he likely realized. He asked her opinion. He listened when she spoke. When mistakes were made, they were corrected gently without accusation. Trust grew not in grand gestures but in the small consistency of his character. The children flourished in her presence in ways Eleanor had not expected. Clara followed her like a shadow, asking endless questions about buttons and colors and whether angels preferred the snow or the sky. Thomas, quieter and guarded, began leaving his books beside Eleanor's chair at night, a silent invitation to share stories. Eleanor read to him slowly, carefully, as if every word mattered because to him it did. One evening, as the wind howled against the cabin walls, Eleanor stood at the window watching snow erase the world beyond the fence. Daniel joined her, not crowding her space, simply standing close enough that she felt his warmth. "You are different since you arrived," he said quietly. "So are your children," she replied. Daniel nodded. Then after a long pause, he spoke words Eleanor had not known she needed to hear. "You do not owe us anything. Not your past. Not your future. If you choose to stay, let it be because you want to, not because you feel you must earn your place." Eleanor turned toward him, the firelight catching the uncertainty in her eyes. No one had ever said that to her before. That night, lying beneath heavy quilts, Eleanor realized something frightening and beautiful. She was no longer surviving. She was beginning to belong. Spring returned slowly as if unsure it would be welcomed. Snow melted into streams that traced silver lines through the fields. Grass pushed through the earth with stubborn determination. Life once paused began again. Eleanor stood outside the cabin one morning, the air crisp but gentle. Clara braided wildflowers into her hair, fingers clumsy but proud. Thomas sat nearby carving shapes into a piece of wood, glancing up every so often to make sure Eleanor was still there. Daniel approached from the barn, hands rough, face tired, eyes steady. He stopped a few steps away, removing his hat as he always did when something mattered. "I have been thinking," he said, "about the future, about what this house is becoming." Eleanor's heart thudded painfully. The past had taught her that good things often ended without warning. Daniel continued, voice calm but heavy with sincerity. "This ranch needs a woman's touch, yes. But more than that, these children need a mother who chooses them. And I would like a partner who stands beside me, not behind me. I will not ask you to stay out of fear or obligation." He met her eyes fully now. "I am asking because I care for you. Because this feels like home when you are here." The world seemed to narrow to that single moment. Eleanor thought of the train station, of smoke and rejection and the man who never looked back. She thought of cold rooms and borrowed time and being invisible. Then she looked at the children, at the land, at Daniel, waiting, not demanding. She stepped forward. "I have spent my whole life being chosen last," she said softly. "I would like to choose just once." Daniel's breath caught. She took his hand. "I choose this life." Clara squealed with joy, throwing her arms around Eleanor's waist. Thomas stood, hesitation melting into a shy smile as he placed his hand over theirs. The wind moved through the fields, no longer cold, no longer cruel. The ranch stood quiet and strong against the open sky. And for the first time, Eleanor did not fear the future.